Hey there, Walt here from WaltInPA. Today we're going to talk about this, my 2023 Kawasaki Ninja 400. It has been about 1,100 miles since I purchased this bike, and I thought this was a good time to do kind of a 1,000-mile recap. Tell you what I think about the bike now that I'm kind of gotten used to it, and if you're on the fence about buying one for yourself, maybe I can push you one way or the other and help you make a decision. So, stick around. So in October of 2022 is when I decided to purchase this Ninja 400. At the time, I was having some issues with my primary motorcycle, which is a 2022 Yamaha MT-09, a bike that I absolutely love, by the way. And I decided that if I were going to buy a second bike, it was going to be something smaller than the MT-09 because I wanted it for shorter trips on twisty back roads, pretty much this type of riding. And while the MT-09 is fun, it can be a bit overkill for, you know, low speed roads. So I decided that I wanted something small, and the 400 just seemed like a good fit for what I was looking to do. So I was a little concerned about the format of the Ninja 400. I am 40 years old. I am not nearly as sprightly as I used to be. It meant that a really aggressive sport bike just wasn't going to work. I couldn't do the whole race replica, Type R, race ready, fast boy kind of thing. I'm not in the demographic anymore. So I needed something that was going to be a little more comfortable. And when I test rode the 2023 Kawasaki Ninja 400, I was really surprised by how comfortable it was for a sport bike. And I think that has a lot to do with kind of the market shifting towards motorcycles that are geared towards having rideable power, you know, for street scenarios, and not necessarily these high output track machines like, you know, the old Yamaha R6 or the Ninja ZX6R. You know, this is it's a much more tame motorcycle that isn't nearly as aggressive in any sense. So I'm about 5'9". I have a 30-inch inseam, and I find the seating position quite comfortable on this. I can easily flat foot the bike. There is a bend in my hip because, you know, it does have a semi-sport bike foot peg position, but it's comfortable. I can ride this bike for well over an hour and not feel like I'm getting a lot of stiffness in my hips. So the handlebars are clip-ons, but they have a little bit of a riser in there, so it brings the bar position up and towards you a bit more, so it doesn't feel like you're really aggressively leaning forward. There is some bend there, but it is, again, like the seating position. I feel like I can ride this bike for long periods of time without getting uncomfortable. The power delivery on the Ninja 400 is pretty much what you would expect from a 400. It's not loaded full of power. You do have to stretch the gears out a little bit to get moving. It will make lots of noise, and that's kind of the fun behind it, I think. And the gears are relatively short, so you do quite a bit of shifting, and I think that's part of the appeal to a motorcycle like this. You know, it feels like you're going up and down the gears, and you're highly engaged in the riding process. It's not like a big CC bike where you can pretty much shift into second gear and cruise at you know, 55-60 miles an hour. You really have to work your way up and down the gearbox on this Ninja 400. And again, on roads like this, where you're going around bends, you're upshifting, you're downshifting, it just makes for just kind of an all-around fun package. If you're in the market for a motorcycle that's chock full of the latest tech and features, you're going to want to look elsewhere. The Ninja 400 is a pretty bare bones motorcycle. I don't want to say it's as bare bones as the old white work trucks with the hand crank windows, but it doesn't have a lot of frills. It does have ABS, so it's got anti-lock brakes front and rear, but that's pretty much where the the tech ends, you're not going to find a ride-by-wire throttle in this. It's not going to have ride modes. It doesn't have traction control. It doesn't have an IMU. It's pretty much a base model motorcycle, and I think that for the target market, that's pretty much all you need, right? I mean, the ABS will keep you safe, keep you from locking up the wheels, and you know, it's a nice entry-level price point of about, say, just shy of $6,000 for the KRT edition. And with that, you just get a nice solid motorcycle that isn't packed full of features. So if you're looking for all that nice stuff, you may want to bump up into the middleweight category and look at some of the higher end 660s and 650s. Now, fuel consumption on this little motorcycle is quite impressive as well. It has a little light on the dash that lets you know when you are riding efficiently for fuel mileage. This little triangular shaped light will illuminate, and when that comes on, I'll get anywhere from, say, 75 to 90 miles per gallon out of it real time. On average, it's probably jumping between, let's say, 50 and 60, depending on how aggressively I'm riding it, how much I'm winding it out. But it goes quite a way on a full tank. Now, the weird thing about this is I don't really know how far I can get on a tank of gas, because I fill it at odd times. You know, I'll go out riding with friends, everyone will stop, they'll fuel up, and I'll top off because we all stop to get gas, and I might only put a gallon of fuel in it, and then we'll ride a little ways and, you know, fill up with either on the way home or somewhere along the way. And I'm constantly filling this thing before I ever get it to a point where the fuel light is coming on, and I'm wondering, like, oh no, how much further can I go? So if you're doing some commuting, I think this will go a long way for you. And the cost of ownership on this bike is pretty inexpensive as well. I mean, so you've got good fuel economy. The service intervals on the Ninja 400 are, your first service is 600 miles, your second service, I believe, is 7,600 miles, and then you're pretty much doing 7,600 mile service from there on out, which is almost double what I get on my MT-09, which is serviced every 4,000 miles, which gets kind of expensive. Well, it's pretty filthy, but there she is off the bike. So I thought I'd give you just kind of a walk around look at the Ninja 400 KRT edition. It's green. It's available in a couple of different colorways. I think they're like $400, maybe $600 less than the KRT edition. I don't hate any of the colors, but I do like the green most of all. I haven't really done anything to this bike in terms of modifications. Really, I think the only thing I did was I had these Shogun frame sliders installed. They're the no-cut type, so none of the bodywork had to be modified. Just kind of slips around and bolts in place down behind it. A couple of things to note is that I find this giant exhaust kind of frustrating. It keeps the bike quiet. However, there isn't a lot of room from the foot peg to the heat shield, and I find that a lot of times if I'm riding with kind of the balls of my feet on the peg, my heel will bump against that heat shield. It gets kind of annoying. You know, it doesn't really affect anything. It's just kind of this uncomfortable tap every time I try to move around a little bit, get situated and settled in. I find myself bumping that heat shield. Another thing to note is that the mirrors are really far away. You know, so they're out on the front of the bike, and from a riding position, you know, if I'm here, I can't reach them. You know, like I have to really stretch in order to adjust the mirror to see behind me. It makes everything look like it's really far away because the mirrors are just far away. But the bike has performed really well. I've been happy with it. It's got a single disc brake in the rear, single disc brake in the front. It's kind of small. Or it's at least it seems that way. Again, I have an MT-09 as well, so I have a tendency to compare apples and oranges sometimes. The brakes work well, or they're not great, but they get the job done, even for having a single disc. One really important thing to talk about is Kawasaki itself. So I guess it was a few months ago. It was winter. It was really cold. I think it was about 32 degrees out. Went for a ride with a friend of mine. I took the Ninja 400. We get, I don't know, maybe an hour or two away from home. We stop for gas. It's cold. I'm stiff. I'm getting off the bike, and I guess because of my being a bit stiff and the plastic being cold, a little more rigid or less elastic, I wound up catching this corner of the plastic with my pants as I was dismounting, and I busted this piece off. It's a piece 3-4 inches long. It snapped off. It hit the ground, and it was just dread. As soon as it happened, I thought, like, oh, you know, that stupid little mistake of not lifting my foot up just a bit higher is going to cost me a couple $100. So I wound up calling Kawasaki, or emailing Kawasaki, asking them if it was covered under warranty. They pretty much told me, go to the dealer and they'll assess it. At the time, I felt like they were just kind of passing the buck. I went over to my dealership where I bought this bike, Martin Moto in Boyertown. Explained the situation. I showed it to them, and they were like, well, you know, Kawasaki has this awesome program where they do good faith warranty repairs if they're under a certain dollar amount. So we will write up the paperwork, we'll submit it. Ordinarily, body panels are not covered under the warranty, but he said, you know, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to get this taken care of for you. And they did. Kawasaki shipped them a replacement panel, a replacement decal in a couple of days, and it was like a week, and I was back in business riding the bike again. You know, not that it didn't ride or anything, I just didn't want to ride around with a big broken piece of plastic. But again, you know, just impressed with Kawasaki's customer care, because they could have stuck me with a repair that would have cost me a couple $100. One thing I do kind of like, there's a pass light. It's kind of like a trigger switch for index finger. It flashes the high beams. I like that. It's nicer than having to, you know, jostle a high beam switch on the front when you want to flash someone to let them go. It's nice being able to just kind of reach out and squeeze that pass button. But that's it. There's my Kawasaki Ninja 400. If you're on the fence, hopefully that helps you make a decision. If you've got any particular questions you'd like answered, you'd like my opinion on this 2023 motorcycle, by all means, drop a comment down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you very much for watching. Ride safe, and I will catch you in the next one.